another Constitutional Revision Commission amendment, property rights, removal of obsolete provision, and criminal statutes. And I have this one is a little complicated. And by the way, if you received the Times Union and you saw this speaks to
Yes.
That's
magnifying glass.
Yes, this is the actual ballot language for all the amendments.
What date was
If you
that?
have your magnifying glass.
What date was that?
This was Thursday, August 30th.
August.
August 30th. So all the amendments are in here, but this is the actual ballot language that you'll see in all of the background. So if you have your magnifying glass. So Amendment 11 covers a lot of things, and I like to say it's kind of almost remedying things that were put enshrined in the Constitution in one of the cases almost 100 years ago. And so I like to, this is an example of enshrining anything in the Constitution. This is how difficult and the lengthy process, and we're just revisiting this. This was put forth by the Constitutional Revision Commission. Okay, this would repeal the state's ability to prohibit non-citizens from buying, owning, and selling property. And this is from essentially an 1880s era section of the Constitution that prohibits the legislature from changing criminal sentences from someone who has been convicted, as well as what they call the alien laws, land laws. I'll just touch on that one.
So non-citizens is referring to incarcerated or released people, or from foreigners? Like, I don't understand.
It's two different issues. It's truly, yeah.
But it's not just foreigners, it would deal with
Like somebody that lived in Arizona?
alien, that had green cards, because I attended a meeting by the Asian Caucus, and this is an amendment that they strongly support. So
I just don't understand, because I have sold property to people that are foreigners, so I don't understand how that.
I'm confused.
This is, okay, this came from, this is actually a Supreme Court, this is one of those that's being challenged. The Supreme Court reversed, let me find it. The ballot summary doesn't explain, she said the amendment removes the power of the legislature to regulate or prohibit ownership, inheritance, disposition, and possession of real property by aliens ineligible for citizenship. The term immigrants ineligible for citizenship is commonly understood as coded language used in the early 1900s to bar Asian immigrants from having equal rights. So-called alien land laws were common across the country during that time until the U.S. Supreme Court ruled against California. There was a case based out of California in 1948. Since then, there's no evidence that Florida enforced its version of the law. This is essentially removing that. According to the Asian American legal groups, Florida is the last state to still have this alien land law in our Constitution. It's purely symbolic because the laws really can't be enforced anymore. But it's important in erasing this long legacy of anti-Japanese and anti-Asian discriminatory language. That's covering the first part. Okay, and then it also deletes a provision that forces the state to prosecute criminal suspects under a law they were charged under, even if the law is repealed. And that's actually the first thing I noted. It's called the Savings Clause. And it prohibits, the Savings Clause prohibits the legislature from essentially interfering in changing criminal sentences after someone has been convicted. And there's been a lot of talk and discussion, I think it was the Florida Supreme Court, you might have some more background on this, where they deemed a minor couldn't be sentenced the rest of their life or death. And they can't go back because of the Savings Clause in our Constitution and rectify or change some of those sentencing and those guidelines.
So if they're wrong, they can't go back and fix it.
Right.
Is what
Right.
you're saying.
Which is why, even though when we attended that Asian Caucus meeting, there are a lot of people in there who, they've spent years trying, it's unfortunate that it got, again, colluded into this thing, because really all they wanna do is repeal the first part. But that second part of that language, it makes it hard, it really jams that bill, because there is no going back, and it's hard for people to go and say, yeah, I'm gonna support that. that amendment. Now, quite honestly, the position of quite a few of the other, leagues, Progressive and some of the other leagues have taken is no on Amendment 11. So,
Well,
it's a hard one.
clarify.
I would say this is the language too.
Yeah.
Like I read the article and I was like, okay, I get it. And I study this and I give these presentations and that is this is not very clear at all where it's actually coming from or what it actually do.
Because based on what you said, currently there's this savings clause in there that prevents them from fixing things that are incorrect, so if we delete that, that should make things better.
So that's up to you to decide whether you think
Yeah.
it's better, but certainly by voting yes, you would be deleting both of these provisions, as well as, they've thrown another one in here, by voting yes, you are deleting obsolete high-speed rail language from the Constitution.
Does that mean removing high-speed rail language from the Constitution completely?
Well, let's see, here's the additional background on the high-speed rail.
Because they're considering it obsolete?
So, well, it's just in the Constitution, but they never followed through with it. It's kind of like a clean up the Constitution amendment, I would call this one.
What is high-speed rail language? Is that like are we talking about like the high-speed rails we're talking about on the freight tracks? Or are we talking about talk too fast?
Oh, no.
High speed, I think at one time, a few years
transportation.
back, they were
Yeah.
talking about high speed rail, and I don't know if it was
Train
from.
track.
Train.
Yes.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
gonna go from,
All right.
And they had an amendment to
Northwest
put it
Florida
in,
to
but they didn't
Orlando,
fund it.
Orlando
Yeah,
to
okay.
Right.
And then they had another ballot measure to do it.
Yeah.
Right. So Amendment 11 would repeal the legislature's right to restrict property rights, delete requirement to prosecute criminal suspects for laws that have been charged since crime was committed, and delete language about high-speed rail. By voting no, you would essentially keep all of that in the Constitution as
Is this
is.
meaning Florida could never have high-speed rail?
No, I think it's just, no. Look, I would say the majority of a lot of this stuff in here, the legislature currently has done, and they just want to enshrine it, or they have the power to do that. Yeah, we can still have high-speed rail if we delete that
But
from
it would
absolutely.
take
But
it
it's
faster
just,
to
no.
make it possible.
It's stupid. No.
Right, I'm not sure why this is.
Yeah.
It's
Shouldn't
just
have to amend the
yeah.
Constitution for stuff like that. Yeah.
Supporting and opposing organizations.